One of the great people that I got to rub shoulders with in Mexico was none other than Bill Predebon. What a great opportunity it was. I looked forward to meeting him, and I didn't see him. I didn't see him. I didn't see him. And finally, the last night, I asked Michael Huggins, "Where is Bill Predebon? I know he's here." And he pointed over to a table, and it was so wonderful to go over and share a warm embrace and meet one of my finest friends on earth, and see him in the flesh. This was just awesome. And so the opportunities that are there at Nationals that were just unbridled blessings right and left. And Bill is such a great person to be around. He's got such great experiences. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Bill and see what he's got to share about this morning. Bill, good morning, sir. How are we doing, Bill?
There we are.
There we
Awesome.
are.
That was so weird. I unmuted and I got muted again.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, there we go. I'm excited to hear what you've got to share with us. And thanks for the embrace. Thanks for the super smile that you beamed on me. I appreciated meeting you so much, Bill.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual, Ron. It was so awesome to see you. I know it's so funny. I had to Facebook each other, right? I was like, Ron, where are you? Like we were. It was amazing that we didn't see each other until the end there. But it was a great night. It was a pleasure to spend time with you and talk about stuff and talk about that training that Woody did and get to know you. So that's what it's all about, right?
Right.
Awesome. Well, I guess I'll kick this off and I'll share a little bit as well. But remember, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and type in my cell number for everybody. Cool. So feel free to use the chat and text in any questions or I guess raise your hand. I'll try to figure that out too. And if there's a topic or something you guys want to talk about or a question you want me to answer, I'm more than happy to just interrupt and jump onto whatever it is that you guys prefer to talk about that you want to get answered or help with or whatever. So with that, I lined up a topic. We kind of talked about it last week, and I'm so grateful for Michael Huggins. You know, we were able to work this out where, I was able to train today instead of yesterday because I was actually traveling yesterday. The last couple of leaders retreats, we've stayed a day or two extra. And this time we went out earlier on Wednesday. And so we had 2 days before everybody got there, which was nice. And then, but we came back early because we've got another trip next week to California at one of our properties out there for a week. And then we got to go back to Michigan. So we decided to cut it a little short this time. So anyway, welcome to the call. I'm going to talk a little bit, you guys, about, I would say, just hands-on conversations with individuals, whether it's a prospect, a team member, folks that you're moving through the system, follow-ups, invitations to first-time events, building for those events, kind of like we talked about. I would touch on it. We might be able to go into this training next week as well. Before I get started in it, it is interesting about the Leaders Retreat. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit. I didn't really work much when I was there, but I work. You know what I mean? So, if that's a thought process anybody goes through, when you're on vacation or, out and about. For me, I didn't spend a lot of time marketing, but, I booked some people to the events. I didn't ignore and shut my phone off or completely ignore what I did. I brought my laptop, and I had a minute, I'd check it on it. I'd check on email and, I had an ad out, a couple of ads out while I was gone. And I was able to book a couple people to the event, both warm market and cold market. And I'll share some of those texts with you guys. As well as, I also had a couple properties. I've 3 properties on the market, one getting a couple offers on it and 2 that I'm working on. And right before I left, I put offers on 3 different condos and a house. So, but I just did not spend much time creating more work or doing extra work. So, but I did go ahead and work with people through text on trying to book them to events. One guy responded to I got my Google Voice, probably I got 5 calls while I was gone, and I never answered any of them, and I didn't call them back. One guy, there was an easy one. It came across as a text, and he's like, hey, get back with me. I'm like, cool, I'll call you on Wednesday when I get back, which is today. And, I'm in Mexico. And then I sent a text, and I basically just implied that he'd be there. And so this was the text that I sent him. And I'm not going to find it. That's funny. I just pulled it up. Anyway, here it is. So I was like, Cameron, this is Bill. Listen, you called on my Craigslist ad about real estate investing. I'm actually in Mexico at Playa del Carmen with about 250 investors. So I gave some intrigue there, right? I'll be back on Tuesday. I'll call you on Wednesday to discuss it. And then I put in a command. And so commands, I think people, they want to be led. They want to be spoken to and have some direction and understand what it is. They like a call to action. They don't like to necessarily, in my opinion, from what I've learned, be left to make the decisions on their own. So I literally said, plan to meet with me at my office Thursday night at 7:00. I'm holding a real estate briefing for those that are interested at our offices. And then my next text was, what is your full name and email address? And text me to confirm you received this. And he's like, hey, and he sent me his name, his full name, his email address, and asked where it was. And I sent him the information and told him what time again. So I'm going to call him today, obviously, and follow up with him. But I've got him booked to the event, and he's it was a command. It was like he's calling off an ad that is about real estate investing and working with me and my team as a personal real estate investor, like an actual real live personal real estate investor, as you guys have heard me talk about with my ad. And so when I answer and I say, listen, plan on meeting with me on Thursday night and come to them, you'll be at my office at 7. I'm going to invite people there that are interested in what I'm doing. And so with that, that's the expectation. He doesn't know, or she doesn't know any better. They don't know that there's any other options. They don't know, all they know is they called off an ad, and then they got a response back from the person placing the ad, and that person placing the ad is telling them how they want to see them and what they want to do and where they're going to meet with them and stuff like that. Of course, when I talk to them, naturally there could be conflict, right? And so then we have to overcome that scheduling conflict. But I like to assume in any text or conversation, what it is that they are, I like to assume that they're going to be there. I like to assume that they want to know what I'm doing and where they can meet with me and how they can learn what I'm doing. All right. So I do that with text and everything. One of the other things I want to mention, you guys, is, and I'll touch on this as we go on, is, it reminds me of a movie, and I'm, God, if I'm spacing the name, but anyway, it was a Mel Gibson movie, and he was a card player, and it was a pretty funny movie. It was a comic set in the Western times, and man, I'm trying to remember, but there was this big poker game on this train they were going to go get to win all this money. Anyway, it was interesting because he, oh man, I'm confused now. I got to think. I apologize, you guys. It might actually, some of you are probably going, no, that's not the right movie. So it's actually Tombstone that I'm thinking of. And it was Doc Holliday. If I remember, I can't remember. I don't think it was. It's Mel Gibson. I'm totally right. Was it Maverick? Yeah, it is Maverick. Thank you, Jonathan Hall. That's exactly what I thought. So it is Maverick, you guys. And Mel Gibson sits around at this poker table in the bar, and it was interesting because they let him play, and he literally tells him he's going to lose for an hour. And he was having a few drinks and laughing and just watching people, and he was losing, and he lost to everybody and You're right. Doc Holliday was Val Kilmer in Tombstone. Thank you. But this was the Maverick movie where Mel Gibson's sitting at this poker table. The point was that he lost for an hour, and he literally was just learning while he was losing. He was watching everybody's tails, right? And watching everybody's, I guess, expressions and twitches and glitches as they won or lost, and when they had good hands or had bad hands, when he would watch when they fold. And that's all he was doing, was studying. And for that entire hour. And then he went on to obviously clean house, and he took everybody for all their money, and they all got mad at him. But he lost for that hour in order to learn what it was that how they communicate. And so the reason I bring this up is it's interesting because a lot of the things that I talk about in today, especially in what I'm going to kind of share with you on how I talk to people is, you know, it doesn't always work for everybody. And obviously I'm still learning. And if you think about this, you know, I re-engaged in Renatus in 2016 as a full-blown marketer. In basically March of 2016, it's just been over 2 years, and that I'm fully have been gone full time. You know, not only, but in addition to my full-time real estate business. And so I've been learning and watching and studying the entire time. As you've heard me say before, I'm always on this call. I'm always on our own training calls. I'm always working with my leaders every single week. We spend, you know, 6 hours together, masterminding and things like that. And then of course, I'm always attending all the trainings that I'm not even doing, as well as learning to train myself. When I do trainings, I have to study for that, and I have to practice for that. So this whole entire time, it's just a learning curve, and it's just a matter of building on what your skill set is. And it's that sitting around understanding how people communicate and how they respond, right? And so if you want to expedite this, if you want to increase your ability to be able to communicate and work with people and get them into the meeting, you know, number one is you want to spend some time in personal development, whether it's a book or paying somebody in a group setting or a personal one-on-one setting to be a personal mentor, someone that will help develop you as a person, right? I've spent over $15,000 in the last I'd say 6 years, which isn't a ton of money, but it's still a little bit of money on personal development, on learning how to spend time and communicate better. So with that, what I tend to find is I really enjoy when speaking with someone. What I notice is a lot of people say, I wanted to tell you a little bit about this. I wanted to share with you. I wanted to, and we always come across as how we feel and what we're thinking and what we think is going to be good for them, and how what we have to offer is something they want to hear. You know, sometimes my team will text, and they'll send me a text that they're going to send to their folks. And a lot of times it's like, I wanted you to see this information about velocity banking. Once you see it, it's going to be amazing. And you'll know exactly what I mean about how you can pay down your mortgage, right? And it's all your idea. It's all about, and you're doing it with good intentions. You're doing it for them, and you're doing it for a reason. And you want to bring them value, and you want them to be excited about what you're excited about, and all those things. It's all right. There's nothing wrong with it. But you know, people will make a quick judgment because it's not their opinion. It's not their idea. It's not something they want. It's something you want. So when we rephrase it and we say things like, you know, there are command words, right? And when you see, everybody knows this, but when you put look on your card, you know, your business card, or you put listen on your flyer, you know, those things are command letters. So it grabs their attention. And so then they're going to read what comes after it, like notice, right? We all see a sign that says notice or warning, and that's what we do. We attend to that notice, to that word rather, that language. And so when you say, listen, you told me that you were seriously interested in paying off some loans, or, you really liked the Thursday night and you said that the thing you liked the most was velocity banking. So we remind them of something that they told us about themselves. And so that means that we were listening and that we acknowledge, how they feel. And so then on top of that, we want to try to make it in our language how we would talk to them about what they want to do. So something like, I'm sure that if you got an opportunity to see the velocity banking and what Randall Cloud can share, you would agree with me that it is something you can apply in your life. With that being said, I have an opportunity for you to see that live so you can experience exactly what you're talking about. And so all of a sudden in that language, it's literally about them. It's literally about you're agreeing with them and you're assuming that they already want to see this information. And it was really their idea that they wanted to see this information and that they want to apply the information. I hope that makes sense. Whatever it is that we need and whatever it is that we want is not nearly as important. And I know you all know this, but we don't tend to necessarily, we really try to tell people this stuff by bringing value and saying, we're thinking about them. And we even say this to our friends, like, I met this guy, or I've got this friend of mine, and I know this would be perfect for them. And, they're really good at business and they could really use some of this information. And we mean all of that well, and all of that may or may not be true. And most likely it is true. But again, it may not be what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And so we really need to address what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And we have to remind them what they are thinking and what they're feeling, because they probably are in agreement with you. They probably do feel the way that you feel and feel that they would be a good fit for it and that they could use it. But when it's not their idea, it's not as appealing. When it doesn't come from them and when they're being told to do something versus wanting to do something and telling you they want to do it, it's different. So we always want to, in my opinion, I like to address these folks, anybody for that matter, whether I know them or not, with a text or a conversation that has to do with enabling them to be the ones they're coming up with. Here's an example of a buddy of mine. And one of the reasons why I brought up that Maverick story, right? And I have another one I'll tell you too that kind of will bring it into perspective as well. But he's a stockbroker, and I've known him for ages. And he's been a neighbor of mine for 10 years until I just moved down to this new house. But he's a good friend of mine, and I've invited him to this meeting for 8 years. I don't know. And he and I have had beers together and talked about it, but he's never come to the presentation. He's always said that he's wanted to. So with that, there's an example of that time commitment, that timing is everything. And so, he's got a couple rental properties. He's got a very nice house with equity in it. He makes very good money. And life has always been in the way, but he's always, had a keen interest in what I do and more investing. And so he texted me about a stock thing that we're doing together. And then I asked him again at the end, even though he texted me and it had nothing to do with anything. I just said, hey, Thursday night, I'm going to be doing the opportunity presentation. Let me know if that works for you. And he said, my girlfriend has plans for us Thursday. What time is your presentation? See if I can work it in. And there was a text that I sent him, and I said, listen, I'm sure that you'll want to attend the entire event. And I said, typically you and I, my friends and I, or my team and I will go out and have a drink or some food afterwards, and some guests will come too. So you'll want to attend that. So if it doesn't work in your plans, and if not something you can get out of, we'll wait till the next one. So it was actually a little bit of a takeaway on someone who I really, really, really want to see this information. And I know that once he does, he's got the means to do it. If he sees anything that he likes, it would have parlayed him into Saturday's intensive with Randall Cloud on velocity banking. And I know that he likes he can appreciate paying down debt and using different banking strategies, being a stockbroker. But I don't want him to rush there. I don't want him to, I want it to be his decision. I don't want to be like, yeah, try to fit it in, come at 7, you can leave early at 9:30, or early at 8:30. Although all those things I'm feeling, and I know that it would still be beneficial to him, I still want it to be his idea. Like, listen, if you can't get out of it, and if it's not going to fit in your schedule, that's okay. So it's a little bit of a takeaway, but also I'm guessing my language is allowing him to start thinking of ways he can get out of what he's doing with his girlfriend or go earlier so that he can make the whole entire event and doesn't have to feel rushed out of it, right? So let's dive into a little bit of conversation that I'll have with people. Let's see. And again, if you guys have a thought process of like how I talk to somebody, just text any questions or thoughts, put it in the chat, and then I'll address it right away. So, when I reach out to folks, let me get another text. There was a girl, Tanya, I was working with. I've been working with her as well. Her and her husband, they were in my wedding, and then we've gone years without talking. And most recently, over the last 6 months, I've been working with her, and she finally came clean after I don't know if that's the right language, but she came out and said she was timing was difficult. Her life wasn't exactly where she wanted it to be. She's working all the time, and financially it's not great for her and things like that. Just like 99% of the people in America, it just finances are never good, right? And so there's been excuse after excuse. I mean, we've had her booked to so many events. And so here's one thing she said. When you get back, let me know. I was promoted to go to senior ops manager, pulling my hair out, laugh out loud. So she got a promotion and she's working even more. And I said, hey, great to hear from you. I'm like, you got it. I'm here for you. Let's get this business and life started. Now is the time. Then I said, listen, plan to, listen, and then plan to attend next Tuesday night. And we'll get you started, and I'll come up there in September. And she's up in northern part of the United States. And so, what's interesting is, I'm foreshadowing what she's going to be doing, and I'm letting her know that this is, that's what's going to happen. Right. So I'm telling her, I'm giving her some commands. It's something that she's probably wanting to hear. Now, what's interesting is, I sent her a text the other day, and let's see what I said. Hey there, seen you've been doing a lot of traveling for work. Hopefully work's going better, and I hope that you're doing better. Think about you a lot. I'm ready and willing to share this information with you to help you get on a crazy good path with some really amazing people up north. Where is it? So what I said for her was right here. I know that you've been telling me about your opportunity, about your work. And I know that you wanted this opportunity from the get-go, right? And that you've wanted to attend. So again, it's been her idea. I'm traveling out to Mexico. I'm going to be back. I'm going to be out of the country. I'll be back on Tuesday. I'll get a hold of you on Wednesday. I'm sure that you're ready to attend the event and that you're ready to get started based on what you've told me about how work's going. So right there, again, it's been about, instead of, hey, you're going to love this information, and I really want you to attend Thursday so you can, or Tuesday night so you can see what we have to offer, and you'll see that this is the opportunity for you. And that's still good language, but it's all my language to her, right? Versus her telling me how she's been looking forward to this opportunity and how she's not looking forward to her work. And so it's about the way that I phrase these types of texts, and definitely conversations. And I would have called her in a normal situation, but being in Mexico, I didn't call her. I just texted her. And it's only because she reached out. I had let her, it had been a while. So anyway, I hope you get my point there, you guys, on how I'm talking and translating to folks. So let's see. For example, someone calls off my ad, and I've kind of mentioned this before, but when I first call them, I literally we'll ask them, right, and qualify for the time. So, for example, when I call Cameron up, this is exactly how it's going to go. Hey, Cameron, it's Bill. Did I catch you at a good time? And I'm going to assume that Cameron knows who I am, right? I'm going to assume that Cameron understands that I'm calling him and he was expecting my call. And he's not. I mean, he's not going to know who Bill is. He may remember me at best. And he's going to say, who's this? And I'm going to say, hey, it's Bill. You had called off my ad. We texted earlier last week. I told the people, oh, yeah. So then I'm going to remind him. So all of a sudden I've got his attention and he's forgotten that he's just answered a cold call, right? We definitely want to do what you call a pattern interrupt, right? Where naturally the pattern of our brain is going to go, hey, listen, this guy's answering, this guy's calling me. It's a number I don't recognize. I got to find out who this is, and I'm not going to spend much time with this person and see what they want, right? But the minute we go, hey, Cameron, and we give him a first name, and we're like, hey, it's Bill. How you doing? Or do you have couple minutes? Right off the bat, usually I don't say, well, how you doing? Usually I say, do you have a couple minutes? All of a sudden, their thought process has to go to answering my question, and they're still trying to think about who's Bill and how does he already know who I am, right? So their brain's completely changed from who's this guy calling me and what does he want, right? Now they're trying to figure out what they want. So he says, oh, yeah, I know, I remember. And once we clarify who we are, and I'm like, hey, man, you called off my ad. I'm actually returning your call. You wanted to learn about real estate investing. Now it's no longer about me calling him for something. It's about him or her, in this case, a him, wanting something from me. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I've got time for that. I do want to know. And immediately, right before they even have an opportunity to ask a question, I'm going to move into a question. Hey, Cameron, why is it you? So listen, why did you call me? What is it you're looking for? What is it you're doing? Why real estate? And tell me a little bit about yourself. So right there's 3 or 4 different questions that I'm asking that enables them to not really have a preset notion of what they were going to say when I called, right? Because they planned this in the beginning. When they called the first time and left the message on my Google Voice, they had an idea of what they were going to say. And now I'm asking them questions, and they've got to answer the question naturally. They're not gonna avoid it. They're gonna want to answer it properly. And so they're gonna think about any of those 4 questions, and they're gonna ask the one that they're gonna answer the one that they like the most. Well, I'm don't work right now. I just got a new job, or I'm looking for a new job, and I'm in loans and whatever their profession is, and okay, awesome. So you're in loans, so you're kind of familiar with real estate. So what is it about the ad? And I'll ask them again, what is it about the ad that you liked? Why did you call me off the ad? What did you like, the opportunity to make money, or to work with me personally in real estate? Or is it just you just are looking to network with other people? What is it you like? And then they'll, again, 2 or 3 questions, and then they go and answer that question. And so again, in this conversation now, I've been on the phone for over a minute, and I'm ready to book them to the event. I don't want to spend a lot of time answering their questions. I don't want to confuse them. I don't want to spend a lot of time diving into any information that I have to give, right? Because the more information I give them, the less intrigued they'll be, the more they're able to make a decision before they even have all the information, because they have some information, right? So immediately I'm looking for a problem, right? Well, I'm really interested in doing real estate. I really like the thought, obviously, of the money. I want to make $10,000 a month, but more importantly, I really want to work with someone hands-on. I want someone to really teach me the ropes. I want someone to, I know that I could be successful in real estate, and I've been working on it, and the missing piece is just really working with some network and guys that have done it before and can show me how to do it. Really, really shadow them, if you will, or whatever the case is. So right there, he's created a problem that can be solved by Renatus. And so immediately I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. And I'll tell a story. Next thing I'll do is I'll tell, when I got started, or whoever or your own story, when I got started, I was exactly the same way. I read a couple books, and I'm not going to go through my story. And I was seeking the information, and I really wanted to meet up with people that were doing real estate. And I really had a disbelief that it was even possible until I saw it myself, right? So I'll tell this story, and then I'll continue right after my story. Be like, listen, what you're telling me is we've got a lot in common. And you're telling me that, you've got the ability, you've been studying it, you know what you want, and I'm just edifying him a little bit. I'm agreeing with what he's already told me. I'm reiterating what he's told me, which is telling him that I'm listening to him. And then I'm going to say, but if I can share with you how not only myself, but my partners and some of the guys I invest with and girls that I work with, that we meet all the time, when you see that you can work with us and kind of share from our experiences and kind of be a part of what we do and how we do it, and get in the mix, and not only have your own knowledge and what you're already learning, but also how you can experience it with us, and you can learn from someone like myself in the field. That would make a lot of sense to you, and that would make you become a lot more successful in real estate and actually get some deals done. Is that what you're telling me? Now frame a question. So now it's going to be his idea. Yeah, that would be exactly what I'm looking for. Great. So now I've solved the problem. He's the one who's told me I've solved the problem. And I'm like, cool. So this is what I'm going to need to do. The reason I placed the ad is that I am going to be hosting an event up at our office. I always say we. And if I were you, I would say I'm hosting, because you guys also host the events with your leadership. So you want to own the building, you want to own the rental space, you want to own the office, and you want to own the group. It's part of you. It's your business. You pay the business builder's fee. So, hey, I'm hosting this event along with my partners. We're going to share with you what it exactly is that we do and how you can do it with us based on the ad that I placed. Does that make sense to you? Yep, perfect. All right, take this information down. And again, it's not, hey, why don't you give me your address, or I'll shoot you a text. It's always commands. It's take this information down. This is what you're going to do. This is where you're going to go, and this is what time you're going to be there. It's command information. People like to have direction. They don't want to be confused. They don't want to make up their mind their own. They called you for a reason because they don't want to be the ones making the decision. Eventually they will, but right now they just want to hear what the next steps are. Naturally, in most of our marketing, there's always a catch they're concerned about. There's always a job that they're looking for. They have a certain expectation of what they believe you're marketing to them for. And most of the time, it's not a Renatus type setting. So they're simply looking for the commands that you need. In a follow-up, right, on a follow-up call, and I've talked about a little bit about this before, the conversations I like to have, with my team, even for example, I have a team member that's upgrading from the advanced this week to the combo, and there's a constant, I guess you call it foreshadowing, a prelude to the future, if you will. And you hear Michael and all the leaders talk about this, right? When you get started, once you get going, when you experience the education, when you start to come to the meetings, right? We're always predicting, and we're always allowing them to vision themselves being there and becoming a part of it and doing it. So again, when I was texting my team members from Mexico and having that conversation, it's like, listen, when I get back, we'll get the upgrade going and we'll get you started and we'll work right away towards 5-star, right? So I'm predicting the things that are going to happen, that letting them know what the thought process is going to be. And then they can envision themselves actually doing these things. There's not really any let me know or when you're ready or, when the timing's right. Those things allow for people to have doubt, and they allow for excuses to come in or reasons not to commit to do it. When it's commands and when it's direction and when it's foreshadowing, when we're telling them this is what's going to happen, it becomes a part of them. It becomes easier to swallow. It becomes easier to make it happen, and it will happen. And so a lot of my conversations with my folks and my team are always about, when you're so close to 5-star, you're so, your next sale is it. That's going to happen this month. We're working on this. It's always an encouragement and a positive and a spin on what's going to happen and how fast it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, we just continue to move that bar a little bit farther out. But there's no excuses for it. It's a command. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And so it's the type of language that we speak, if that makes sense. I'll give you another example of what I was talking about and what the possibility is here, in my opinion, of the opportunity with Renatus. And so, there was a true story about a woman who got involved with gambling, went right back to gambling, and she ran a poker game. But what was interesting is she, the couple things I get from it is, number one is she said yes, right? And that anything's possible. And so, when she had to make ends meet, she took an opportunity to work for a guy, didn't treat her very well, wasn't very nice, was, had his own life things going on, and it was just, but she, the money was there. And so she sucked it up and she worked for this guy. And this guy had a small stakes poker game going. And she got an opportunity to basically be his secretary and run this game, but he ran the game. She just set it all up. And it was interesting because she spent 3 years and he was not mentoring her in the game. He was not teaching her poker. He wasn't teaching her to run the game. She was just there. And he had certain expectations from her there. But what she did was she had time while this game was going on. And so she studied. And she studied for 3 years on every poker term, all the vocabulary, all the language, all the tell signs, right? She understood the dynamic. And it wasn't a month. It wasn't a week. It wasn't a year. It wasn't 6 months. It was 3 years, right? Before she went out, and she waited for the right opportunity. And she went out on her own to start her own game when the opportunity arose. And it wasn't even on purpose, right? It was based on the situation that arose. But the point is, she was an understudy. And she Googled every single word and learned what those phrases meant and how the game worked and how the game operated. Something she'd never done before. She wasn't a gambler. She wasn't a poker player. And she didn't become a poker player. But she understood how to run the game. And she went on to run some of the biggest games probably that have ever been known in New York and LA. And my point is that the Renatus opportunity is the same. She watched the same thing every single week for hours and hours and hours into the night. She heard the same phrases. She watched the same combinations of cards being played, and nothing was different. There was no new training. There was no new words. There were no new ways to play the game. It was always the same, but it was repetitive over and over and over again. And every time it was the same, it was a little different, as you guys all know. Every time we have a training, it's always a little different, but the same concepts and the same simplicity is being taught. And so your learning curve here is astronomical, and it's going to be, the opportunity, I should say, is astronomical on what's potentially possible down the road for you over time. Like I'm only 2.5 years back into this, and I love it. Am I where I wanted to be after my second year? I expected to be on the pit. As you all know, I fell a little short last year on that. So this year I fully expected to supersede that goal, right, for sure. But the opportunity is that when I look at all the history with Renatus and how long it takes people to have the success, I know that it's not that far away. I know that this is part of the game, that I'm still learning how to become the better marketer and business builder that I want to be. And it's okay. And that all of these trainings are important. That the more times I hear the same information over and over and over again, the more it's helping me get into the point where I start to see the results that I'm expecting. And I know that that'll only be a matter of time. And so time being 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, right? And you've heard Michael's training a few weeks back when he was talking about the numbers that he's hit and how fast you can do it versus what he's done, right? Took him 7.5 years to be where he's at. And you could do it in 3.5 years or 2.5 years or 5.5 years. And you could be faster to where Michael is. And how amazing would that be? Would it be worth it for you to make it in 7 years or 8 years or 6.5? Absolutely it would, right? But you can never learn to quit. You can never learn to quit. And more importantly than not learning to quit, while you're not quitting, you have to apply, right? You just can't not quit. You have to not quit doing what you're doing. You have to continue to do what it is that is required of you. So I wrote this down a little earlier, and I'm going to come back to it here, is that when we learn to have these conversations, and as we continue to try to have these conversations with folks, the coolest thing is that you'll get better, but we will learn that we will have more conversations with just more people. That it won't be once a week or once a month or 3 people a week. It'll be 3 to 5 or 10 people a day, right? If you remember Christian Sadler's Blitz, it's going to be more and more people. And when we begin to be able to speak to more and more people, because it becomes more natural and we have a bigger belief and we've had more experience and more practice, that is when the numbers will go up. That is when the right people will see the information. That is when the sales will increase. That is when your team will begin to build. And that's when duplication will happen. And all of those things will happen when we get past the first few and we begin to apply that to more and more and more people every single day. And that's the key. Never ever learn to quit, but never learn to quit doing what you're doing. And those action steps, those 4 money-making activities that are required in the Renata system for you to do, never learn to quit that, and you will see the success of all your leaders, the Christian Sadlers, the Michael Huggins, the John O'Neills, the Scott Rose and Nancy's, and everybody else in your upline, everybody else in your organization, everybody else in your pack, in your pit that I haven't mentioned, that we all know who they are, and all of your leaders in your group, including yourselves. You will be looked up to the same way based on the fact that that's what you did. All right, folks, with that, it's 7:58. I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening to this training and the opportunity to speak. I'm going to come back on Tuesday of next week, and we're going to knock it out of the park. I'm going to talk about leveling up, and I'm going to bring some live examples again and kind of build on what we were just talking about today. But thank you so much for your attention, you guys. Everybody have a great week. Have a great day. Thursday's coming up. Enjoy Thursday like crazy. I will see every single one of you all next year at the Leaders Retreat. It was amazing. And I'm sure you heard the calls on Monday and Tuesday from Michael and all that. So with that, everybody, I will end the meeting. I appreciate everybody. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your day. Have an amazing day. Make it great. Talk to you soon.